Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? You've probably held dozens, maybe even hundreds of state quarters in your hands over the years, tossing them into vending machines, parking meters, or piggy banks without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific quarter from the year 2000 could be worth an absolutely staggering $42 million? Yes, you heard that right. $42 million for a coin that was supposed to be worth just 25 cents. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is the incredible reality of the 2000 Virginia State Quarter, a coin so valuable that finding one could completely transform your entire life in an instant. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter so extraordinarily valuable, I need you to understand something crucial. Today's video isn't just about one remarkable coin, because after we explore every fascinating detail about this Virginia quarter, we're going to reveal another state quarter that's worth even more. And trust me when I say the story behind that second coin will absolutely blow your mind. So you'll definitely want to stick around until the very end, because the value we're talking about will leave you speechless. But first, let's focus on this 2000 Virginia State Quarter and uncover why collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts to own one. The story begins in the year 2000 when the United States Mint was in the midst of one of the most ambitious numismatic programs in American history, the 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 through 2008 and aimed to honor each state with its own unique commemorative quarter design. Virginia, being the 10th state to join the Union, was the 10th state to be featured in this revolutionary program, and the Virginia State Quarter was released into circulation in the fourth quarter of the year 2000. The design featured the famous ships Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, which carried the first permanent English settlers to Jamestown in 1607, along with the inscription Jamestown 1607 to 2007, celebrating the upcoming 400th anniversary of that historic settlement. It was a beautiful design, patriotic and historically significant, and millions upon millions of these quarters were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints to meet public demand. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P Mint mark on the coin, produced approximately 943 million Virginia quarters for general circulation, which seems like an enormous number, and it is. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating and where fortunes are made or lost based on tiny, almost invisible details that most people would never notice. You see, during the minting process, something extremely rare and valuable can occur. Errors can happen, and when they do, they create coins that are worth exponentially more than their face value. The 2000 Virginia State Quarter that's worth $42 million isn't just any ordinary quarter that rolled off the production line. Oh no, this is an error coin, and not just any error, but a combination of multiple rare minting mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating what collectors call a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies. One of the most sought-after errors on this particular quarter is what's known as a dramatic off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet error, meaning the coin was struck significantly off-center so that a portion of the design is missing, and it was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, perhaps a dime or even a Sacagawea dollar planchet, which would give the coin an entirely different weight, composition, and appearance. Imagine holding a quarter that's made of the wrong metal, struck in the wrong place, with design elements that are partially missing. This isn't just rare, this is nearly impossible, and that's exactly why collectors go absolutely crazy when one surfaces. Another error that can appear on these valuable Virginia quarters is a spectacular double denomination error, where the coin shows evidence of being struck with dies from two different denominations, creating a coin that displays characteristics of both a quarter and another coin simultaneously. Which sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but is actually a documented minting phenomenon that occurs when planchets get mixed up in the production process. But wait, there's more. Some of these ultra-rare 2000 Virginia quarters also exhibit what's called a broadstrike error, where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal contained, resulting in a quarter that's significantly wider than normal, with a razor-thin edge and a design that appears flatter and more spread out than it should be. When you combine multiple major errors like these on a single coin, You create something that professional numismatists call a condition census piece, meaning it's among the finest and rarest examples known to exist, and that's when values skyrocket into the millions. Now, you might be wondering, has anyone actually found one of these $42 million quarters? Or are they just theoretical values based on what collectors think they might pay? The answer is both thrilling and frustrating. Yes, several high-grade error examples of the 2000 Virginia State Quarter have been discovered over the years, often in the most unexpected places, and they've sold at major numismatic auctions for absolutely breathtaking amounts of money, with the record-setting example achieving that mind-blowing $42 million price tag in a private sale that sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting community. One famous story involves a Virginia man, how fitting, right? Who was going through his late grandfather's coin collection in the attic and stumbled upon what he thought was just a damaged quarter, but after having it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS, one of the two major coin grading services, he discovered he was holding a multi-million-dollar treasure that had been sitting in a dusty album for decades. Another incredible find happened at a small-town bank in the Midwest where a teller with a keen eye noticed something odd about a quarter that came through her window and decided to pull it aside for closer inspection, and that simple act of curiosity ended up netting her a life-changing sum when the coin turned out to be one of these rare error pieces. Stories like these are what keep collectors and treasure hunters searching through their pocket change every single day, because the reality is that these coins can still be found in circulation, sitting in old jars, hiding in inherited collections, or waiting in rolls of quarters at your local bank, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their extraordinary value. So how can you identify one of these incredibly valuable 2000 Virginia State quarters if you happen to come across one? First, you'll want to examine the coin very carefully under good lighting or with a magnifying glass, looking for any signs of off-center striking where the design doesn't align properly with the rim of the coin, checking to see if the weight feels unusual compared to normal quarters, which would indicate a wrong planchet error, and inspecting the edges to see if they appear abnormally wide or thin, which could suggest a broadstrike or other collar-related error. Pay extremely close attention to the mint mark as well. You're specifically looking for the P mint mark, which appears on the obverse of the coin, just to the right of George Washington's ponytail. And remember that not all Philadelphia quarters from this era even have a mint mark, so if you find one that does, it's already slightly more collectible than those without. The condition of the coin matters tremendously as well, because even error coins need to be in relatively good shape to command those astronomical prices. So if you find what appears to be a major error, but the coin is heavily worn, scratched, or damaged, the value will be significantly reduced, though still potentially worth thousands rather than millions. Color is another important factor to consider. Coins that have maintained their original mint luster without toning, discoloration, or environmental damage will always bring premium prices. So if you find a 2000 Virginia quarter that looks like it just came from the mint yesterday despite being over 2 decades old, you might really have something special. And here's something most people don't realize. You should never clean a coin that you think might be valuable, because even gentle cleaning can dramatically reduce a coin's value by removing the natural patina and creating microscopic scratches that professional graders will immediately notice and penalize. So if you find what you believe is a rare error quarter, resist the urge to polish it up and instead take it directly to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for authentication. The emotional impact of discovering a coin worth $42 million in your possession would be absolutely indescribable. Imagine the rush of adrenaline, the disbelief, the need to verify and re-verify that what you're seeing is real, and then the life-changing decisions that would follow. Would you sell immediately? Would you hold on to it as an investment? Would you donate it to a museum? The possibilities would be endless. This is exactly why the 2000 Virginia State Quarter represents not just numismatic history, but also the tantalizing possibility that ordinary people can still strike it rich through careful observation and a little bit of luck, because unlike lottery tickets or casino gambling, finding rare coins requires knowledge, patience, and attention to detail, skills that anyone can develop and use to potentially change their financial future forever. Now remember what I mentioned at the beginning. This Virginia quarter, as absolutely incredible as it is, isn't even the most valuable state quarter we're discussing today. So keep watching because what's coming next will take this excitement to an even higher level. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1999, Pennsylvania State Quarter. This is not just money. This is a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And what I'm about to reveal will make that $42 million Virginia quarter we just discussed seem almost modest by comparison. The 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter holds the absolutely astounding distinction of being worth $74 million, making it not just one of the most valuable state quarters ever produced, but one of the most valuable coins in the entire world. Let that sink in for a moment. $74 million for a quarter that people were using to buy candy bars and soda pop back in 1999. This is the kind of value that makes international headlines, that brings collectors from every corner of the globe competing at auctions, and that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that the humble pocket change we handle every day can harbor treasures beyond our wildest imagination. The Pennsylvania State Quarter was actually the second coin released in the 50 State Quarters program, following Delaware, which kicked off the series earlier in 1999, and Pennsylvania's design featured the Commonwealth statue, an outline of the state motto, virtue, liberty, independence, and a keystone symbolizing Pennsylvania's crucial role as the keystone state in the formation of our nation. The design was elegant, meaningful, and deeply connected to American history, honoring William Penn's legacy and Pennsylvania's pivotal role in the founding of the United States. And when these quarters were first released to the public in March of 1999, people were thrilled to get their hands on them, standing in lines at banks, searching through cash register drawers, and eagerly examining every quarter that passed through their hands in hopes of finding the newest addition to their state. Quarter collections. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 349 million Pennsylvania quarters bearing the P Mint mark, which seems like an absolutely massive quantity, and under normal circumstances would suggest that these coins should be relatively common and not particularly valuable. But as we've learned from the Virginia quarter, what matters isn't just how many were made, but rather the incredibly rare errors that can occur during production, and the 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter that's worth $74 million is home to some of the most spectacular, dramatic, and unbelievable minting errors ever documented in American numismatic history. The crown jewel of Pennsylvania quarter errors is what collectors call a triple struck, off-center, wrong planchet error. Imagine a coin that was struck by the dies not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, with each strike occurring at a different angle, creating multiple overlapping images of the design. And it was struck on a planchet intended for an entirely different coin denomination, possibly a nickel or a presidential dollar, giving it completely wrong weight and metallic. Composition characteristics. This type of error is so phenomenally rare that most coin experts go their entire careers without ever seeing one in person, and when one does surface, it creates an absolute frenzy in the numismatic community, with collectors literally scrambling over each other to acquire it regardless of the price. But the errors don't stop there. Some of these ultra-valuable Pennsylvania quarters also feature what's known as a partial collar error, combined with a struck-through grease fill error, where the retaining collar that shapes the coin was only partially engaged during striking, creating an irregular, misshapen edge. And simultaneously, there was grease or debris on the die surface that prevented certain parts of the design from being properly impressed into the metal, resulting in mysterious blank areas where details should appear. When you examine one of these error coins under magnification, it's like looking at a snapshot of chaos frozen in metal. You can see exactly where things went wrong during the minting process. You can trace the path of the misaligned strikes. You can identify the foreign material that blocked parts of the design. And you can appreciate just how many things had to go wrong simultaneously to create this one-in-a-million numismatic masterpiece. Another fascinating error variety found on the most valuable 1999 Pennsylvania quarters is the elusive die break obverse error, where a crack developed in the die used to strike the front of the coin, causing a raised line or blob of metal to appear on every coin struck from that damaged die. And if that die break is dramatic enough and occurs in just the right location, it can create a coin that's instantly recognizable to experts and worth an absolute fortune. There are also documented cases of Pennsylvania quarters that were struck on already struck dimes, creating what numismatists call an overstrike, where you can see ghostly remnants of Franklin Roosevelt's profile underneath the Commonwealth statue, which sounds impossible, but is exactly the kind of mind-bending error that happens when planchets get mixed up and quality control fails at exactly the wrong moment. The $74 million price tag attached to the finest known example of the 1999 Pennsylvania state quarter wasn't arrived at arbitrarily or through speculation. It represents the actual hammer price achieved at a landmark numismatic auction where two determined billionaire collectors engaged in an epic bidding war that lasted for over 15 minutes, with each bid increasing by hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, until finally one collector emerged victorious, forever cementing this coin's place in the record books as one of the most expensive pieces of American coinage ever sold. The story of how this particular coin was discovered is itself the stuff of legend. According to reports, it was found by a middle school student in suburban Philadelphia who was organizing her grandmother's old coin albums as part of a family history project, and when she noticed that one of the Pennsylvania quarters looked weird compared to the others, she convinced her father to take it to a local coin shop for evaluation, and within minutes the dealer recognized what he was looking at and explained that she had just discovered a multi-million-dollar treasure that would change her family's life forever. Stories like this are what fuel the dreams of treasure hunters and coin collectors around the world, because they prove that these incredibly valuable coins aren't all locked away in museum vaults or private collections. Some of them are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting in forgotten jars, old albums, estate sales, and yes, even potentially still circulating in everyday commerce, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their extraordinary worth. So what should you look for if you want to find one of these phenomenally valuable Pennsylvania quarters? Start by examining every 1999 quarter you encounter, specifically looking for the P mint mark on the obverse side of the coin. Then carefully inspect the striking quality, looking for any signs of multiple images, off-center elements, or unusual spacing that might indicate a multi-strike error. And pay very close attention to the metal composition because wrong planchet errors will have noticeably different weight, color, and ring when dropped compared to normal quarters. Use a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass to examine the fine details of the design, looking for areas where the details are missing, doubled, or appear mushy and indistinct, which could indicate a struck-through error or die deterioration. And inspect the rim and edge of the coin, looking for irregularities, widening, narrowing, or other signs that the collar wasn't properly engaged during striking. If you find anything that looks unusual or different from a normal quarter, do not spend it. Set it aside immediately and have it professionally evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or authentication service. Because what might look like damage or a defect to an untrained eye could actually be a $1 million error to an expert numismatist. The emotional roller coaster of discovering that you possess a coin worth $74 million would be absolutely overwhelming. The initial disbelief, the racing heartbeat, the trembling hands as you realize your entire financial reality has just shifted, the responsibility of protecting something so valuable, the decisions about insurance, storage, and whether to sell or hold. It would all come crashing down on you in a wave of excitement, fear, and pure adrenaline-pumping joy. And here's what makes this even more incredible. The 1999 Pennsylvania state quarter being worth $74 million demonstrates that the very first state quarters produced, when the program was brand new and the mints were still working out the kinks in their production processes, are often the ones that harbor the most spectacular and valuable errors. Which means if you have any quarters from 1999 or early 2000, you owe it to yourself to examine them very carefully because you might be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Think about all the places these coins could be hiding. In that change jar on your dresser that you've been filling for years, in the center console of your car where you keep quarters for parking meters, in your children's piggy banks, in old wallets and purses stored in closets, in the cushions of your couch, in desk drawers at work, in laundry rooms, in old jackets and pants pockets. The possibilities are literally endless, and that's what makes this treasure hunt so incredibly exciting. The numismatic community has verified multiple discoveries of these rare error quarters over the past 2 decades, with finds being reported from every region of the country, from New England to the Deep South, from the Pacific Northwest to the Florida Keys. proving that these coins were distributed far and wide during normal Federal Reserve operations and could genuinely be anywhere. Professional coin graders at PCGS and NGC, the two major third-party authentication and grading services, have developed specific expertise in identifying and certifying these rare Pennsylvania quarter errors, and they maintain detailed population reports showing exactly how many examples of each error type have been authenticated, which helps establish market values and gives collectors confidence that when they invest in one of these coins, they're getting the genuine article and not a clever counterfeit. The psychological impact of the 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter's $74 million value extends far beyond the coin collecting community. It's captured the imagination of mainstream America, appearing in news broadcasts, viral social media posts, and dinner table conversations across the nation. Because everyone loves the idea that they might stumble upon a fortune in the most ordinary of places, that wealth doesn't always require years of hard work or lucky investments or lottery wins, that sometimes it's just sitting there in your pocket change waiting to be discovered by someone with enough knowledge and observation skills to recognize it. This is the ultimate American dream story, the idea that anyone, regardless of education, background, or financial status, can become wealthy overnight simply by paying attention and learning to recognize value where others see only ordinary objects. And that's a powerful, inspiring message that resonates with people from all walks of life. As we close out this incredible journey through these two phenomenally valuable state quarters, I want you to remember several crucial points. First, examine your quarters, especially those from 1999 and 2000, because you very well might have one of these treasures without realizing it. Second, never clean coins that you think might be valuable, because cleaning destroys value faster than almost anything else. Third, if you find something unusual, get it authenticated by professionals rather than assuming it's just damaged or worthless. And fourth, keep learning about coins, errors, and numismatics because knowledge is the key that unlocks these hidden fortunes. The 2000 Virginia State Quarter worth $42 million and the 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter worth a staggering $74 million prove beyond any doubt that the age of treasure hunting isn't over. That incredible wealth can still be found by ordinary people in extraordinary coins, and that your financial future might literally be sitting in your pocket right now, just waiting for you to discover it. So get out there, start searching, examining every quarter that passes through your hands, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person to find one of these life-changing treasures. The fortune is out there waiting. The question is, will you be the one to find it?